Oh.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Temple Ahavat Shalom, and our early best wishes for a Zisen Pesach, a sweet, happy, and healthy Passover holiday, which begins tomorrow night. Rabbi Matt and special treat, Michelle Konigsberg is here as our soloist this evening, along with Tim Berneman, tickling the ivies down below. In the spirit of the holiday, we're going to open up our Shabbat service with Chag Sameach. For those of you who are in the sanctuary, you're not going to see the words as they are back home, but it's Chag Sameach, Happy Holiday, and Shiru Chag Sameach, Sing Happy Holiday. Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Shira, 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 Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Shira, 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 Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Shira, 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 Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Shira, 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 Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Chag Sameach, yai la 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 ya la la. Chag Sameach, yai la la la. Going to light the Shabbat candles. First we'll sing Light These Lights.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen.
On page 2, you'll find the bracha, the blessing for the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adorai.
bless you, God, for the many mitzvot obligations in our lives and for commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat, our time of rest, joy, and peace. I'd like to share a poem with you in the Passover spirit called Out of Egypt by the poet Tamar Stern. Now it is the time to depart from the Egypt of daily life into a moment of question and promise. We bring you with us to the Seder table, the way Moses hoisted up Joseph's bones and carried them to the promised land. We carry you, God, now in memories on our journey as we buy gefilte fish and change the dishes and set the tablecloth, as we warm up the matzo ball soup, as we wonder if there's enough food, and not to forget the boiling eggs. We carry you now who carried us when we were little with your arms, who supported us with love. We carry you now as you become the story we will retell, the way we carry the Torah, the way the Torah lifts all of us. Going to move into the Kabbalat Shabbat psalm called Romamu, which you can find on page 17. Exalt Adonai, our God, bow down towards God's holy mountain. It's right on the bottom of page 17, that last paragraph in Hebrew. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishakavu nehar kosho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishakavu nehar kosho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishakavu nehar kosho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishakavu nehar kosho. Going to welcome those Shabbat angels, the messengers of the Most High, by singing Shalom Aleichem, page 24, for those of you with a prayer book.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Zechem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Kadosh Baruch Hu. And continue now with words of praise, the Hasi Kaddish, found on page 26. Yitkadav v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah
V'yama divrach hirute, v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'chayed chol beit Yisrael. Bagala, uvizman kariv, v'miru, amen. Yeheshme rabba mivarach, la'alu amwei almaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbichata v'nechemata, ta'amiram bi'alma, v'yamiru, amen.
Let's rise now for the call to worship. Baruch Hu, praise Adonai, found on page 28. Continue with a prayer for creation on page 31. Please join me. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. And on 31, words of love, ahava. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Let's sing Open Our Eyes as we prepare for the Shema, Hear, O Israel. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. 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 Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Feel free to be seated. We'll continue chanting the words of the Shema. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul, on page 36 in the prayer book. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anohi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. We'll continue on 39 with a song for freedom, which you'll notice will have a very different melody. We'll be singing it to the traditional tune, Adir Hu, God of Might. Mi Chamocha is one of those prayers that, depending on the season and where you are in the Jewish calendar, it will have different flavors and different melodies, and so it does for Passover. Feel free to join me with the reading. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we are taught, but forever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And we'll sing through this twice, and hopefully by the second time you'll get the melody, and feel free to join in. Oh Osefele Michamocha Ba'elim Adonai Michamocha Nedar B'Kodesh Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed. In the closing words of the blessing, thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. We'll continue with our song and prayer of shelter, the Hashkivenu, found on page 42 in the prayer book. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Blessed are you. Baruch atah Adonai, aporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We're going to continue now with our standing prayers, our tefillah, thanking God for the blessing of the generations who came before us, for strength and for holiness. And this is going to be the last Friday in about a half year or so that we're going to be having the prayer for the rain, Tefillat HaGeshem. Next Friday, we'll switch over as it turns from rainy season to dry season in the land and state of Israel to the prayer for dew. So let's rise, asking God to open our lips on page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, Mevi gula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo v'ahava. Melech Hoser u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol, Ata Rav Le'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, U'Morid HaGashem, Mechaker Chayim B'Chesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umakayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'nei Mata Lechayot HaKol, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechaye HaKol.
Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalu chasela. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Feel free to be seated. And we'll continue with the 4th through 6th blessings, beginning on page 55 with a prayer for the holiness of Shabbat. Baruch Atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat, a prayer that Shabbat will always fulfill its promise. And for words of avodah, worship, on the bottom of 56. Baruch Atah Adonai HaMachazir Shechinato L'Tzion. We bless you, God, whose presence always returns to Zion. And for goodness. Baruch Atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha U'Chana'eh Lehodot. And finally, for peace, Birkat Shalom, found on page 60. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, grant abundant peace to Israel, your people, forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, God, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hamvarech et Amo Yisrael. Ba Shalom. We're going to take a few moments for our own thoughts and prayers and reflections. And we're going to be singing a version of Yehiyu L'Ratzon, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, God. Adonai, Suri, Adonai. the Josh Nelson Band. Going to turn now to words of health and healing and strength. On page 253, for those of you with a Siddur, a prayer book in front of you, you'll find the words to Mishaberach, God the one who blesses and gives courage to those who are in need. This time especially, we think of all those throughout the world and in our communities who are suffering from the pandemic. And we also think of the following individuals for healing on this Shabbat: Lily Blackwell, Herb Bloom, Marcy Bunn, Lisa Cargile, Eddie Deerfield, Matthew Deinhardt, Edie Eckber, Yona Feinstein, Heather Felser, Harry Fleisch, Myra Friedman, Sandra Freifeld, Andrew Guerin, Mark Gittimer, Leah Gottlieb, Myron Graff, Jody Kaplan, Jeff Karp, Arthur Maller, Aaron Mailer, Arnold Miller, William Miller, Marcia Mollet, Bella Uziel, Bob Rosen, Stephanie Ross, Mickey Siegel, Sue Schoenbaum, Betty Sharp, Jeff Stark, Carrie Taylor, and Michael Wallerstein. If there are any other names to add, either here in the sanctuary or at home, feel free to share with us. Tonight, I'd like to speak to you about long, drawn-out sermons. You know those, where the rabbi seemingly goes on for hours during the high holidays, maybe even during a regular Shabbat, or at least as far as I remember back from my childhood on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, about a good 45 minutes. I'm sure you can think of some epic length ones that you've sat through as well. Which calls to mind a question. When do you think the first long, drawn-out sermon was actually delivered? You think it was during the time of the rabbis, where the sages lived about 1,500 to 2,000 years ago? Or maybe it was way farther back during the time of Moses. Now, Moses wasn't known for his brevity. The entire book of Deuteronomy is, in essence, 3 long sermons or speeches given in his final year of leading the Israelites. Honestly, we're never going to know when these long sermons began, but we do know one thing. This evening, which is called the Great Shabbat, or Shabbat Hagadol, may well have earned its moniker from the very long sermons given at this particular Shabbat service. Back in the day, hundreds of years ago, rabbis were sometimes hired just twice a year. These visiting scholars, masters of verbal volubility, would literally roll into town on a horse-drawn carriage into a village. And their first visit would take place in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Shabbat Shuvah, the Sabbath of repentance. And the other visit was on the Shabbat, Shabbat Hagadol. After hearing these long speeches year after year, it wasn't uncommon for the townspeople to complain or kvetch about their length. Even the great biblical commentator Rashi chimed in. He said it was really difficult to sit through some of these sermons, and he actually called them, at least in Hebrew, a drag. Because even the name of this Shabbat, Gadol, which is usually translated as great, can also mean long or very protracted. Once, a number of years ago, I heard a story about a rabbi, a fellow member of the cloth, who just didn't know when to stop. This rabbi just kept droning on and on, going well beyond what would be considered a normal length for a sermon. And on one Shabbat evening, after about an hour or so, about half the congregation had already tiptoed out of the sanctuary. Now, unfortunately, the rabbi took this to mean that the remaining half of the individuals in the sanctuary were actually quite interested in what he had to say. So he launched into yet another lengthy discussion on an additional topic. By the time the rabbi wrapped up the sermon, there was just one individual left in the sanctuary. Now the rabbi thought to himself, I've truly found my kindred spirit. This is an individual with great intellect, good taste. He's been listening intently to everything that I've had to say. What a mensch. I need to go down and meet him right away. So he walked off the bima and enthusiastically greeted this solitary person in the pew. And the rabbi said, "So new, tell me, what did you think of my sermon?" The person answered, "Well, to tell you the truth, I really wasn't paying any attention." The rabbi was taken aback. He grew quite indignant, and he replied, "So why are you still here?" And this solitary soul looked right in the rabbi's eyes and said, "Because you said I'm the next speaker." You get it? Thank you so much. There are only like 12 people in the congregation right here and like 100 or so out there. You never know what hits. So long ago, I remember in rabbinical school, the professors used to say, if you haven't struck oil in 20 minutes, stop boring. Now, about 10 years ago, there was a particular sermon that definitely piqued people's interest, and it wasn't boring, to be sure, because in this particular sermon delivered during the week of Passover, Rabbi David Wolpe shared the following with his congregation, conservative congregation, that after reading through all the relevant biblical archaeological research and magazines and journals, Rabbi Wolpe came to the conclusion that virtually every modern scholar agrees that the way that the Bible describes the book of Exodus and the Exodus story didn't actually happen in the way that the Torah said it happened, if it happened at all. It was a shocker. Most of the time, even a really good sermon doesn't even register as a small blip on the radar, yet somehow this one made it to the front page of the Los Angeles Times. The headline, "Rabbi Doubts the Story of Exodus." As they say, all press is good. Well, he certainly wasn't the first person to doubt the veracity of the miracle, and he won't be the last. The story of Exodus that we read in the Torah and that we tell during the Magid, or storytelling section of the Passover Seder, is replete with signs, miracles, and wonders, stuff right out of the movie. the Nile turning into blood, swarming locusts, splitting of the Red Sea. We refer to these and many other miracles when we sing Dayenu. It would have been enough if God had just brought us out of Egypt, just gave us Shabbat, just gifted us Torah. Of course, and a lot more. So clearly, miracles take center stage in the story. But at the end of the day, at least in my opinion, the focus of the Haggadah, the Seder prayer book, so to speak, is about freedom and its implications. When it comes down to it, Judaism is pretty ambivalent about miracles. The book of Deuteronomy warns us not to be impressed by the signs and wonders of false prophets. The sages or rabbis of the Talmud remark that even a miraculous testimony can't necessarily confirm the validity of a rabbinic opinion because the Torah isn't found in heaven. It's found on earth. That's the answer. Judaism teaches us that if we're sick, we definitely need to go to the doctor. We can't rely on prayer or miracles alone. Some rabbis even went so far to say that miracles don't even go against the natural order. Rather, they're preordained from the beginning. For instance, there's a list of 10 things that happened before the first Shabbat in the opening week of creation, and one of them was a deal that God made with the Red Sea, that at its appointed time the Red Sea would open, thus not going against the natural order of things. To my mind, the importance of any miracle is not how it exactly happened, but how it relates to us and what the story actually teaches us. Maybe an east wind caused the waters of the Red Sea to part. Maybe it was a low tide. Maybe it was a high tide. People have thought of all of these things. What matters most is the end result. The Israelites were able to escape and begin their journey to freedom. Every single child in religious school learns about miracles. I certainly did. The 10 plagues of the Passover story, the time when Moses either raised or lowered his hands, which would directly determine whether the Israelites would win or defeat the Amalekites or lose or be defeated by the archenemy, the Amalekites. The small cruse of oil that lasted for 8 days instead of 1, the miracle of Hanukkah. And at some point or another, every single religious school child asks, so where are the miracles today? Why don't these happen exactly when we need them, just like they happened to the Israelites exactly when they wanted them? Well, sometimes miracles are easy to see. After all, the Red Sox won the World Series in 2004 after an 86-year drought. That was, bar none, a miracle. Of course, miracles aren't always so easy to see, and they can't take care of all the problems in the world. They won't even give us everything we want or everything we even need. They won't necessarily take away pain in the world, illness that we're feeling, the suffering that exists in the world. It won't necessarily take away the evils of racism or the violence that still plagues our land, our country, and beyond. But I do believe that miracles enable us to sustain all the good that the world gives us. And they can give us the strength, I believe, to continue to do good in the world. Miracles can lift our heart. They can allow us to see the world anew. They can be found in moments of love, moments of meditation, reflection, prayer, moments of kindness. They're present whenever we share gratitude with one another. In short, it's up to us to make miracles in our world and with each other. We may not experience miracles as much as we'd like. We won't necessarily see those pyrotechnics from atop the mountain or experience manna, miracle food, raining down from the heavens. But that's okay, because if we saw this on a regular basis, they wouldn't be special anyway. Nevertheless, I think we should be open to experiencing miracles, whether large or small, at least to a point. Like the old Hasidic saying goes, if you deny every tale of the miraculous, you're a heretic, you're outside of the camp. But if you believe every tale of a miracle, then you're a fool. This year, as we celebrate our Festival of Freedom, may the Passover story remind us that every generation needs to see itself as if it just left Egypt. We should try and find room in our heart to recapture a sense of wonder and awe. And we should experience the light of God's presence, which continues to shine brightly in our world through acts of love and kindness. I wish you all a happy Shabbat HaGadol, the long and protracted, or the big Shabbat, and a Zisen sweet Pesach. And by my watch, that only clocked in at about 12 or 13 minutes. So maybe my professors back in HUC in Cincinnati might be proud. We'll continue now with our service on page 282. The words of adoration, "Let us adore," found on the bottom of 282. Please rise as the ark is opened.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
If you turn to page 294, you'll find the words to Mourner's Kaddish. So we think of the following families who are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning a loved one. On the Shabbat, we think of Erwin Kern, uncle of Irene Lipensky and Susan Satinoff, Armando R. Caballero, father of Luz Himmelhock, Robert Allen, father of Deborah Allen, Clayton Lee Van Ness, husband of Norma Bloomberg, Jackie Salenfriend, friend of Janet Edelman, Martin Henry Young, brother of Elaine Hendricks, Abraham Konigsberg, uncle of Stephen Konigsberg, Frank Blitzer, husband of Arlene Blitzer, and Dick Harding, husband of Doris Harding. We, of course, call to mind and to heart those who have lost their lives due to COVID, as well as those who lost their lives in recent violent events in this country. We also mark on this Shabbat the yahrzeit anniversary of death of a loved one of the following individuals. We remember Esther Albin, Jenny Schatzberg-Basuk, Leonard Bolnick, Morris Broder, Emmanuel Cohn, Josie Cohen, Helen Epstein, Pauline Fish, Irving Friedman, Beatrice Goldsmith, Israel Nathan Goldsmith, Hazel Golub, Izzy Kassoff, Adele Katz, Joseph Katz, Louis Kovac, Miriam Cronenberg, Jenny Laserson, Sonia Levin, Harold Lipton, Belle Lubotsky, Claire Mulrad, Thelma Rubin, Anna Simon, Natalie Skalka, Beverly Slavny, Len Sternbane, Delcy Supo, Oscar Sussman, Louis Unger, Glory Vasselman, and Margot Werner. Are there any other names to add for Yahrzeit at this time? We say Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of all these good people continue to be a lasting blessing in our lives as we rise together to offer these words of Kaddish praise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam ulamei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shemei d'kudusha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiram b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and the world, as we say, amen.
V'imru, 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 amen. V'imru, 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 amen.
Feel free to be seated. Just a few brief announcements this Shabbat evening. This Sunday, well, first of all, happy Passover. Tomorrow night is the first Seder. On Sunday night, March 28th, is our virtual second night Seder here at Ahavat Shalom that I'll be leading. It's at 6 p.m. You'll see the broadcast through Boxcast. We'll be in the social hall. There are about 15 people joining us in person. And we'll be using a really great Haggadah called Sharing the Journey with some beautiful artwork and some very welcoming readings. On Tuesday, March 30th at 11 a.m., I'll be leading the second of our 3 Adult Ed live stream series on Musar, which is Jewish character traits and spiritual practice, kind of elevating your soul. And from April 15th through 19th, the Sisterhood is going to be sponsoring the virtual Mahjong tournament. So stay tuned for that. We thought that a good piece to end with, a good song to end with is Let My People Go, or Go Down Moses. In the prayer book, it's on... Oh, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me. I was so excited to do Go Down Moses. I'll have to wait just a little bit to do Go Down Moses. All right. Kiddush is on page 5. Appreciate the reminder. My second Kiddush of the night after Tat Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvot
Maseh Bereshit, Ki hu Yom Tehillah Lemikra Kodesh, Zecher Letziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu V'acharta V'otanu Kidashta Mikol Ha'amim, V'Shabbat Kodechecha B'Ava Uvratzon Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Name to life. In the Motzi. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Now, without further ado, Go Down Moses, still on page 361, just in case you were wondering. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses. Conclude with our prayer for health and well-being, the importance of continuing to wear those masks when we're out in public, and for the mitzvah of protecting our lives and those of lives of those around us. We say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al shmirat hanefesh, for the mitzvah of health and well-being for us all. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to Michelle, to Tim, to our tech crew, in the back, and I wish you all a happy and healthy Pesach. Take care.